We do all the My Dudes episodes. We do a little mock talk. That's how we roll here around this time of year on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. At least not when I'm not panicking about the Yahoo's fourth board revision, which is totally a brand new thing. But I'm not going to get distracted by my fear/rage/acceptance. Working my way through the various stages of grief, I guess. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Bespris. I'm joined by Kingy, Adam King 91 on social media. We are going to be looking at Adam's 9-cat mock draft, my industry mock, which actually paralleled the mock we did together live in a lot of ways, although you had to pivot in a few spots. So let me just throw that straight up on the board. Nope. There we go. This show, of course, is presented by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Please take a moment to like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we can talk through some of what Adam did. Now, this is a 14-teamer, so I don't want people to be thinking too much about what round you got guys in, and instead maybe think a bit more about the actual number where you got them. But set the table for us here. You had the 8th pick. You probably had a pretty good idea what you were doing going into this thing, yeah?
Yeah, I did. 14 team, it mixes that up a little bit because things shift, as you'll see from some of my following picks. But yeah, look, people know I'm pretty high on Anthony Davis this year, despite the fact he's out of shape. That's what we're hearing, isn't it?
270
looks pretty good to me. But yeah, he's I think he's just in for a really big season. Obviously, health. We know the health concerns with Anthony Davis, but at pick 8. I was sort of tossing up between him and Trae Young, and that would obviously determine which way I'm going to go in terms of build. But I've done that Anthony Davis build, as you referenced. I've done this build in multiple spots. I've actually just started it again in a dynasty startup league. Not with Anthony Davis, though. I did not take him in the first round in a dynasty league. Yeah. So no, it determined which way I was going to go, and I was sniped with my first couple of picks after this. As you'll see, some names on my team here that aren't usually in this build: Jalen Johnson and Kawhi Leonard, who are
Jalen
Johnson.
You can tell me a little bit about the Jalen Johnson. So this is at pick 21, I believe. I'm going to try to do the numbers as we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate Jalen Johnson at 21, and I know you typically you lean pretty heavy into the defensive stats, rebounds, things like that. I mean, he fits some of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't hate him here. Absolutely, I'm fine taking Jalen Johnson at 21. So no concerns or no issues with where I got him in the draft. In terms of fit, I think he's a fit. He's probably not as good a fit as the guy 3 spots to his right, Amen Thompson, who I wanted. But thankfully, Kayla was nice enough to take him from under me. So had to go in a different direction. I did consider Evan Mobley as well. He's a pretty good fit in this build. But I just thought I like Jalen Johnson. Let's get him on my team. Doesn't have the steals upside, I don't think, of Amen Thompson, but should still get plenty of defensive stats, some rebounds, probably scores a little bit more, but and that's always something to tuck in my back pocket just in case. So no, I'm happy with him. And then I went with Kawhi, who, I don't know, on paper, a nice fit, not super inefficient, gets defensive stats, some rebounds. But this is where I would have rathered, again, 3 picks to the left of him is Dyson Daniels. And this is where a 14-teamer changes it up, because in a 12-teamer, I probably would have got those guys, but not in a 14-teamer. So, went with Kawhi. Would have rather Dyson Daniels, so I was looking for steals here, and Kawhi will get them. I mean, if this was a real draft, would I have taken Kawhi here? Maybe, maybe not. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with all of the... I don't even really pay attention to what it is, but I know there's something happening with Kawhi and the Clippers. It's not really basketball related, so I haven't done a deep dive on it. But I think Kawhi, if he plays and and can stay relatively healthy 60 to 65 games, I think this spot is fine to take him.
So let's take us back more to the sort of 30,000 foot view. Once you had the 8th pick, did you already think in your mind, like, I'm pretty confident I'm going AD? And even after that, as a secondary, to folks that missed our live mock show together, because I assume not everybody has seen every show we've done, Kingy went hard into sort of like the anti fantasy players enthusiast, which was you punted points, threes, assists, and free throw percent, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically everything that everybody else is like, those are the ones I want. You were like, I'll go the other way. And it was kind of amazing. It was like I was watching with my mouth hanging open going, this is really going to work. Once you were you already pretty set on trying to go that direction when you found out you had the 8th pick? Or, was it not until after, say, your 2nd round pick that you were like, I think this is a direction I'm going? How do you work through that punt process? Because if you already make up your mind even before your first pick comes in and you don't get the guy you're looking for, that throws things off pretty fast, right?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I was either going to go Anthony Davis or Trae Young, and they're very different in terms of build. So I went with Anthony Davis, and once I picked him, I knew, because I know this build quite well, so I know the players I need to be targeting in specific spots. But in saying that, I've also done a Trae Young build in a number of spots where I just go with all of the guard stats. So that first player would have determined which direction I went in, and I opted to go Anthony Davis in this one. But if I'd gone Trae Young, then Jalen Johnson is not even a terrible fit for that kind of a build.
Yeah,
because he gets some assists and he gets some steals and he'll get you some threes. So likewise Kawhi. So they, as I said, aren't as specific to this build. Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels, who were my preferences, are a little bit more specific to this build. My next 2 players are very specific to this build and would not fit a Trae Young centered build at all.
Which build is easier, you think, before we look at your next 2 centers?
I like this build a little bit better because, as you said, people chase points early and assists. They're the 2 categories I think that are hard to get at the back end of drafts. So while everyone's chasing those point guards and high volume forwards, I can completely ignore them. And Dyson Daniels is a perfect example. Basically, his value comes from one category, that being steals, and I'm okay with that in a specific build. But in a general build, if you're going for a balanced team, if you take Dyson Daniels early, he actually hurts your points quite a lot because he might only get you 13 points a game. And if you want to compete in points, you've got to be getting 20-plus point scorers early in drafts. So, he's a good example of why I prefer that build. Good example, and Noah and I will probably do a separate show on his show talking about this Dynasty startup mock. No, it's not a mock. It's a real draft. It's actually my home league, which I converted into a Dynasty league for this year.
Maniac.
So it's been running for years and years. And I just sort of float. Someone actually asked, I think, could we make this a Dynasty league? And I said, sure, if people want to. And I posted a poll in the chat and everyone was on board with it. So we've converted that. Someone dropped out and I thought, well, Noah's my friend, so he can be in my Dynasty startup league. And it also means I can ask him questions. Luckily we're not drafting next to each other, but I actually took Amen Thompson in the first round of that draft. And then I came back with Asar Thompson in the second round.
Oh, look at you go.
So, and obviously that's pretty high on Asar. But again, when I'm punting points, threes, assists, and free throws, Asar does everything else. He doesn't turn the ball over. He gets rebounds, he gets blocks, he gets steals, and he is an efficient scorer. So, that is probably my preferred build for that reason. I don't need to chase those points and assists early.
one more sort of broad strategy question, because I think we'll be able to move through your players at a reasonable
Yep.
rate here. And I like picking the brains at, like, what if you had gotten fourth pick or something like that? Are you
Mm-hmm.
still considering going with a 4 punt build, or is that something that you do once you get through those first 4 guys? Because, like, Jokic, obviously, like, he's just so far beyond everybody else, and
Mm.
Wemby, he's got his stuff going on, and Shea is so good at so many categories. What is it about, like, your punt decisions? Do they come from your draft slot,
Yep.
or is this? Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep. So yes, if I had example in the a league that I'm in with some old man squad guys, and so it's a real league. I have the second pick. Our draft actually starts in 4 minutes or an hour and 4 minutes. I'm not sure. It's one of the two. I actually have the second pick in that draft. So I will go Jokic or Wemby, whoever is available to me.
Yeah.
And I won't know what I'm punting in that situation. I will punt something, but I won't know until probably the second. I don't know if it's a third round reversal league. So second or third round, I won't know what I'm punting because it will. I will just see who's available to me. I mean, with Wemby, I'm probably going to punt something like assists or maybe field goal percentage because he's not
Yeah.
that elite for a center. If it's Jokic, I'm probably going to punt blocks, something like that. Jokic is actually very good for a build like a Trae Young build. He gets all of the guard stats. And then you can just also sort of load up on rebounds as well. So, that will determine. So, yes, my pick slot, I will usually go into a draft. I love knowing what spot I've got. And that's why Yahoo frustrates me because you don't know until half an hour before the draft, where Fantrax, as soon as the draft is full, you can go into the draft room. So, once I know where I'm picking, I will start strategizing straight away.
Yeah, I ask mostly because you and I have done a couple of mock type things together, and I think I've seen you at pick 8 twice and like 9th once. So I keep seeing you in the same spot, and you end up in this particular build. And now we can move on to your 4th, 5th round picks. You went a couple of centers back to back, Walker Kessler and Jakob Poeltl, who have some similarities, but not a ton. The main similarity being neither one of them is particularly good at shooting free throws. But other than that, they're actually kind of different centers, where Walker Kessler, more traditional, tons of rebounds and blocks. Jakob Poeltl, a little more of like a get you some assists, some steals, things of that nature. Was that part of the thought process, or was this really just like, I'm going to take 2 centers that rebound and get really good field goal percent and like just keep piling up defensive stats however I can here?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's sort of that simple. Walker Kessler I get in this build pretty frequently. And again, I'm able to take him a little bit higher than others. And I also took him in that dynasty startup in the 3rd round. So, yeah, he fits this build. Obviously, we have no idea what Utah's doing. I'm hoping that they're actually going to play their guys a little bit more this season and just lean into the fact that they're a bad team. You don't need to rest guys to lose. You're a bad team already. Right. So I'm hoping Kessler will play 65, 60 to 65. And then Jakob Poeltl, yeah, as you said, he's not. I think some people assume he's this elite shot blocker who gets 1.8 blocks. He isn't. He's more like a 1.3. But as you said, he will get you a steal, maybe 1.1, 1.2 steals. Some assists, not a lot of assists, but they do run the offense through him a little bit. Obviously, they're pretty loaded in terms of offensive talent now in Toronto, so he is going to be the 5th option on most nights. So won't score a lot. And I mean, Ingram is another guy that can handle the ball a little bit. So, yeah, it's sort of a case of let's load up on some blocks. Because I missed out on Amen Thompson and Dyson Daniels, I need to get, and as you'll see from my next 2 picks, I need to just shore up steals a bit. Because if I get Dyson and Amen with my 2nd and 3rd picks, steals are absolutely fine. Jalen Johnson, Kawhi Leonard, not as elite. So, loaded up on blocks and then moved into let's focus on steals with my next 2 picks.
Yeah, and these are two. I love these two, and for so many reasons. Your build, other builds, whatever. Tumani Kamara. Oh, by the way, Walker Kessler was picked 49. Jakob Poeltl was picked 66. Kamara, I believe, would be 77. And so Tumani Kamara is the next one at 77. Tari Eason, wait a minute, 6 times 14 is what, 84? Plus another 8 is 92. So 77 and 92, I think, are the next two on this one. I'm trying. Who knows? Someone will.
It's too early for me to do that.
Yeah,
math, so.
it's too live for me to do this math. But Tumani Kamara, Tari Eason. I mean, you already said what you're doing here. How do you feel about these guys, even in a non-punt build? What's your take on these two players?
Kamara, I'm very high on. I think he was sort of had that breakout last season, and I think, I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but I'm pretty sure his ADP is basically sitting where he finished last season, sort of in the 90 range. And yeah, so, that's his floor. I took him, you said he's 77. I'm fine with that. I think he could be a top 60, top 50 player. Now, he doesn't help you in multiple categories, but good defensively, gets some rebounds, certainly an improved offensive game. So if you are drafting him in just a general build, I don't think he's going to hurt you as much on that end. And Tari Eason, we know that he's a per minute sort of specialist. And I think that just with no Van Fleet, no Dylan Brooks, no Jalen Green, they've brought in some talent, obviously, as well. But I think Eason probably plays 26 minutes, 27 minutes night off the bench. He'll get some starts here and there because of injuries and things like that. And we know exactly what he can do. Defensive stuff, rebounds. Won't score a lot. He's very much like Tumani Kamara, but coming off the bench and probably with a little bit more per minute upside, I think.
You went Cason Wallace in the next round. I think that's pick 105. Again, just adding more steals to the ledger here. Mitchell Robinson, you went in the 9th round. Do you think that he's going to have a decent year, or is this really hard specialist appeal type stuff?
A bit of both, I think. I've sort of talked about him quite a lot as one of my favorite late round targets, especially in a build like this. If I was doing the Trae Young build, then Mitchell Robinson wouldn't even be close to my radar. But he's we saw early in his career that he only needs 22, 24 minutes to be a top 100 player. And I think the Knicks are going to give that to him. I think a new coach, they've added some depth. They certainly don't want to be playing Towns and OG Anunoby, these guys, 36, 37 minutes. They might scale them back. And we saw Mitchell Robinson start in the preseason game against Philadelphia in Abu Dhabi. Now, it's a preseason game. Josh Hart was out, but there have been rumors that they might start Mitchell Robinson alongside Karl Anthony Towns. Now, Mitchell Robinson only had, I think, 7 points in that game from memory, but he had 16 rebounds and 2 blocks or something. And that's exactly what I drafted him for. So, yeah, I think if you're just looking for a late round guy that can get you traditional big man stats, Mitch Robinson is certainly worth a flyer anywhere outside the top 100. And I would just, seeing that game, I know we're sort of still relatively high on Towns this season, not to the point where we think he's going to repeat what he did last year. But if they are going to start him alongside Robinson, I would just sort of consider what does that do to Towns' rebounding numbers, because Mitchell Robinson is a very good rebounder. So Towns could come down to sort of 9.5, 10 rebounds, which impacts his overall value, of course.
Yeah, we saw Towns as a power forward in Minnesota, and it was not particularly pretty. Taylor Hendricks was your last pick, forgotten man out in Utah. What do you think he does this year, actually? Recovering, obviously, from a catastrophic leg injury.
Yeah, again, at Utah, we don't know what they're sort of doing. I just like him in this build. Now, we only went 10 rounds deep, of course, here because it's a mock and that's all we need to do.
At a 14 team where I figured 140 picks was enough.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if I'd sort of necessarily take him at this spot. I'm happy taking him with my last round pick. But again, I knew this was a mock. I knew we were ending, and I knew that I'd be coming on your show, and I just wanted to talk about Taylor Hendricks.
That's
So I
perfect
picked
thinking.
him.
And here we
Yeah,
are.
and what could he do? I don't know. I think he's a 1-1 threat. Finding anyone that can get you 1-3, 1 steal, 1 block late in drafts is valuable in itself. He started last season before he went down. Now, it was only 3 games, and there's no John Collins, but obviously Filipowski has sort of emerged, and they've added Ace Bailey. They've offloaded a whole lot of guard depth, but also drafted in Walter Clayton. Bryce Sensabaugh is there. He's another guy that I like late in drafts. So there are still a lot of question marks, but I'd like to think that they were of the opinion at the start of last year that Hendricks is a piece of whatever they're doing there in Utah. And he's still very young. He hasn't done anything to sort of change that point of view, I wouldn't think. So whether he comes off the bench, whether he starts, he probably comes off the bench. But I think he plays 26 minutes a night. And there's upside, as we know with Utah, once we get to March, February, January even, where they're resting players, and he plays 30 minutes a night. So this is a situation where I would pick up Hendricks, see what he looks like for the first 1 to 2 weeks of the season, and then make a call. If he's not sort of playing, if he's only playing 22 minutes, I probably move on. But if he's getting me some of those defensive stats and what I'm looking for in this build, then I would just try and hold him and potentially his minutes increase as we move forward.
I had planned ahead here. I wanted him to get through your mock in about 20 some odd minutes, which we did, because I want to ask you a few punt related questions. You've really, over the last couple of seasons, kind of turned yourself into like the punt guy. You and Adam Stock are like my punt dudes now. Yes, Adams, I know you share a name. I get it. And Stock has even said, I think Kingy punts harder than I do now, which you may officially have the king's throne for punting. So if we're gonna put something on your head, it's gonna be a punt crown. This is the Anthony Davis punt, or the Anthony Davis build. It's the inverse fantasy build, basically. If someone was going to try to emulate this build, sort of take it out and test drive it on their own, what are the tenets that they would have to know? What do they need to get early? What are the easiest things to kind of accidentally screw up? You've told me in the past that one of the really nice things about this build is you can be so good at certain things that you can weather injuries, but how do you get to that point?
Yeah, it's I've actually had some people message me and say that they're just intrigued by this build, and so they're trying it in certain leagues and then asking for, hey, who do I take at this spot? So I like that. I like to see it rubbing off a little bit. Probably the biggest one for me, and I sort of will take this back to the industry pickup league that I'm in last season, and I did this exact thing. So I went with this build. I went with Anthony Davis first, and I did it in other leagues as well. And I can actually bring that league up here and have a look at who I drafted from memory. But I remember going through the season. So, I mean, I guess something people say about this build is it means you can only really win 5-4. And yeah, that's the case. I mean, you might luck into a week where you win points or something. But generally speaking, it's 5-4. And so where does that leave you in terms of the regular season standings? Industry pickup, which is a very highly competitive league, and I did this exact build last season. I was actually leading for a significant portion of the season, and then when Anthony Davis got injured, that hurt me a little bit at the back end of the year. But I still finished third in that league in the regular season. And the one thing I remember from that league, so I'm just bringing it up here. The one thing I remember is that I felt like during the season I was chasing steals a little bit. So that was, and that's why I've sort of made an effort this season to get Amen Thompson early, to get Dyson Daniels if I can. And yes, Dyson doesn't necessarily help me in rebounding or blocks. He turns the ball over a little bit more than I'd like. But if I can get the guy that's going to get me 2.5 steals a game, it means I don't have to worry as much later in drafts. So if I look at my team last year in industry pickup, I had Anthony Davis, I got Jalen Williams, I had Gobert, I had Mark Williams, I had Derek Lively, I had Walker Kessler. So I had Zach Edey. So I had a lot of shot blockers with Anthony Davis. But then I was sort of chasing. So I like Alex Caruso, I took late because I felt like I needed some steals.
Right.
I had a man, I had a Sar. But I just remember thinking every week that was the category that I felt like I might have to stream some guys in here or play certain players to get steals. So that's probably the biggest one I'd say. If you're going in this direction, don't, because it's very easy to chase those big man stats and you tend to forget about the steals. So if you can get some early, one benefit though is you can take someone late like a Cason Wallace or a Tari Eason, those steals specialists who are available later in drafts. And if you've drafted well enough through the first 10 or 11 rounds, then you can take someone who will get you 1.5 steals, like Jalen Suggs, for example. You might be able to get him a little bit later. And yes, he doesn't shoot the ball well, so he doesn't necessarily help you in that category. But if you've drafted well enough, it shouldn't matter because he's not going to be taking 18 shots a game. He's only shooting 8 to 10 or something like that. So
I think I asked you a similar question to the following when we did our live mock before. How does this build stack up against a Wemby team or a Giannis team?
I mean, that's you need to keep an eye on whoever gets Wemby. So whoever gets the first or the second pick, you need to keep an eye on who they're drafting, because that obviously with Wemby, you've got a massive foot up in blocks because he could average 1.5 blocks more than anyone else in the league.
Right.
So you do need to keep an eye on who is being drafted after Wemby. And I have noticed, I've said this as well, if you get Wemby in your draft, don't just ignore blocks the rest of the draft, because I've seen that happen where people will get Wemby and almost just think, oh yeah, I'm going to win blocks. And then you tend to focus on other things. And then you get to the back end of your draft and you're like, oh, I've still really only got Wemby, who is an elite shot blocker. So you need to chase some blocks late. And there's a lot of shot blockers through the middle of drafts. So there's that big run of centers, not necessarily elite shot blockers, but a lot of centers like your Yucca Purtle, Jalen Duran, Khalil Ware. I mean, you can see them on the screen here. Miles Turner's in there. Vooch doesn't block shots. Jarrett Allen, Kristaps Porzingis. So there's a lot of blocks here in the middle where other teams will load up on blocks. So if you are getting Wemby, I would just sort of keep that in the back of your mind that you can't just simply ignore blocks. Pairing him with a Jaren Jackson or something early is a nice move. But yeah, I like to think that with the team that I've got, Anthony Davis, Walker Kessler, Jakob Poeltl, Mitch Robinson was in there as well. And again, this is why I'd like a man. I would like a Sar because they block 1.1 shots a game as well. So getting those out of position blocks is a nice little bonus if you can get it.
Last question for you. A reminder to everyone, please, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe, however you're taking in the show. It's a big, big deal. That's how we continue to grow this thing. It's how we can get more views on everything we do, more listens on everything we do, and kind of keep powering the locomotive. And I almost forgot to remind you guys to check out our buddies over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, maybe you are doing an Anthony Davis build and you're wondering how the Mavericks might look this year. At FanDuel, the season win total is 41.5. We talked about that one somewhat recently, actually. And that one to me comes down to whether or not you think Kyrie Irving is coming back. So I'm not betting that no matter what, because I don't know when he's coming back. 41.5 is the number. Should you decide to get in on that, that is again over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook, presenting sponsor here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Kingy, Adam King 91 on social. What if you went Trae Young instead? Which I agree with you, I think is the harder build because everybody is fighting for the same high volume scoring, assisting types. What is your pathway to success if you start with Trae? Because I personally tend to struggle when I go with the Trae, Harden, Cade starting point, and I end up leaning too hard into certain things. And I end up with a team that's great at 4 categories, but that's not enough to win on a given week. So what's your pathway? You don't have to give me all the players, but like I know you did a punt guide here on this channel a few days ago as well. What do you suggest people do if they want to start their team and go guard?
Yeah, look, I think like that Trey Young build, I've been doing that build for years in my other home league. I was just trying to see if I had a mock here where I'd actually drafted or done that kind of a build. And man, I have Anthony Davis in a lot of mock teams this year. If he gets injured, I'm in trouble. So yes, if you're going Trey Young, obviously it's a little bit more straightforward because you know exactly what you're looking for points. You're looking for assists. So those categories that everyone is chasing. So if you take Trey Young with your first pick, and I don't mind getting him again in this range of 8 to 9, even 7, because he is a guy that's probably going to lead the league in assists. And so I think did he have 12 assists last year, 11 and a half or 12 or something? There's not going to be a lot of double-digit assist players. They're just Halliburton is gone this year. James Harden is close, but not what he was, and they've also got sort of some version of Chris Paul there in his wheelchair, rolling off the bench to get sort of 5 assists a game. So if you get Trey early, it certainly puts you in a position of advantage when it comes to that. So I'm just looking at guys here on the list in that kind of a build. LaMelo Ball is
I feel like you could end up weak in so many things so fast if you're like all guards. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too down on it.
No. Look, you can certainly, and it does mean you're ignoring. Well, in the builds that I do, I'm ignoring rebounds, blocks, field goal percentage, and turnovers. So the traditional big man stats. So points, assists, threes, free throws tend to go together. If you're drafting a lot of high volume guards, they're usually going to hit threes, get some assists, score points, and make their free throws. Again, the one category in this build that you need to always keep an eye on is steals, because Trey Young does not really steal the ball. If you were to go with someone, like I said, LaMelo is a nice fit if we knew he was going to be healthy, because he does steal the ball. But there are a lot of high-scoring, relatively strong assist players: Peyton Pritchard, Austin Reeves, Jamal Murray, Devin Booker, Tyler Hero, Emmanuel Quickly. There's a whole lot of them, but they only get you one steal or 0.9 steals, and you'll be good at steals, but there'll be a team that has Dyson Daniels and Amen Thompson and these guys that get 1.6, 1.8, 2.3. So that would be the one thing I would, again, just monitor as you're working through, is make sure that you're getting some steals. And Dyson, I keep going back to him, good fit in this build in terms of steals and some assists, but he doesn't score. So if you're taking Dyson with your 3rd round pick, you're at a disadvantage when it comes to points. So you then need to chase a little bit, which can be hard. And I was going to do the FanDuel thing for you if you forgot it, because I had it up on the screen, and I always do for my shows. If you're doing the Anthony Davis build, just bring up the sportsbook betting odds for Defensive Player of the Year, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 players that I typically draft in the top 10 to 12 players in the Defensive Player of the Year betting for that build. So just pick names off that list and draft them, and you'll be pretty good.
That's a really fun strategy. As my family explodes in the background. That I guess marks the conclusion of our story this afternoon. Kingy, have a lovely day, my good man. Thank you for a little mock talk.
My pleasure. We'll be back on maybe next week. Who knows?
Yeah, we're gonna do our damn best.
He's
try. Adam King. He's at Adam King 91 on social media. A proud member of the Old Man Squad, both in fantasy podcasting and just in actual real lifery. Kingy, I'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir.
And that was our good buddy Adam King. Kingy, They don't call him the king for nothing. He's the king of punting these days. I don't know what's going on with my microphone. It's flip-flopping all over the place, and it's very annoying for those of you that are hearing squeaking noises. So I apologize. I think I've got it sorted out now. I'm going to throw the mock screenshot off to the side. I remind you guys to check out fantrax.com/oldmansquad. That is the place to sign up for an account. It is better. The screen that you were seeing was a screenshot of Fantrax. Link is in the show description. Also, I know I don't like doing this read, but I did start a Patreon. It is $1. It entitles you to absolutely nothing. I'm going to do the exact same stuff regardless of whether or not anybody subscribes to the $1 Patreon. I'm still going to crank out shows multiple times per day. I'm still going to be going completely buck wild with as much free content as is humanly possible in an effort to grow the Old Man Squad network. And yeah, that's it. Do it, don't do it. I don't care. Old Man Squad is the handle over there as well. So that's the Kingy build, man. That's the big man build. I love it. I love watching him build it. I love seeing how you do it when you can't get your targets. I love how impervious it is to injury and other stuff. And now I just got it. Kingy and I need to do one where he's doing a guard build, so I can watch him do that one as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like, rate, subscribe. Subscribe being the big one. Please, please, please. Beg you guys. That's the big one. I'm Dan Bespris. Find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, Besbris. Follow Adam King at Adam King 91, the number at the end of that handle. If you want to know more on how the whole mock went, I'm going to try to do more result posting on social media, although I admit I do more on Twitter once the season really gets close. Coming up here on Old Man Squad, all kinds of amazing stuff. We're going to look at the new top 12, the new top 25. We're going to look at my favorite 5 plays on the damn board. I haven't done my own favorites. Good Lord, there's so much to do. We got to redo pairings. Lord have mercy. This show is brought to you by FanDuel, fantrax.com/oldmansquad, my Patreon account, and the HOF app. Sign up today with promo code SQUAD, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, everybody.